Chapter 18. Cluck and Marion waited in the barn for another hour, just to make sure Prince John's men had given up and gone home. To pass the time, Cluck gave Marion her first lesson in combat, which turned out to be less fun than Marion had imagined it would be, and a lot more painful. "Stop trying to lunge at me," Cluck scolded after easily knocking Marion on her bottom again. "You're leaving yourself wide open every time you do it." Marion made a face while allowing Cluck to pull her back to her feet. "But how will I get a blow if I don't attack?" she asked wearily, rubbing her backside. "You need to wait for the right moment," Cluck explained. "Think of it as school work. You know how you have to study in school before any test? Well, the concept is the same. When you first meet your opponent on the field, you don't know anything about them, their strengths, their weaknesses. You must study them. How they move, do they favor the right or left? When they charge in, do they leave a part of themselves unprotected? You must watch and learn, playing defense until you are ready to attack." Cluck wagged a feather at Marion. "Patience is so important in the art of combat. Perhaps the most important thing. It's a dance, so to speak, and your opponent is your partner." "I suppose that makes sense," Marion conceded, stepping back into their makeshift ring. She raised a broom, her weapon in this case, while Cluck lifted her own, giving her a challenging smirk. Marion appreciated the fact that her attendant wasn't taking it easy on her, but she knew she was going to be extremely sore the next day if they kept at it much longer. Still, she wasn't about to give up, not while her pride was on the line. "Arty's up," Cluck barked. "Keep your feet facing me, and breathe," she added with a scolding look. "Relax." Marion sucked in a long breath, meeting Cluck's eyes with her own. They circled each other slowly, and this time, Marion resisted the urge to attack. Instead, she watched Cluck closely, as instructed, trying to learn her moves to catch her making a mistake. But Cluck was so good that after a while, Marion began to despair. The chicken had no weaknesses as far as Marion could see, except... She frowned, suddenly noticing something. Every time Cluck faded to the right, she lifted her left wing just a little bit. It was almost unnoticeable, and at first Marion wondered if she was just imagining it. But no, there. She did it again, for a moment leaving her underwing completely exposed. Marion drew in another breath, attempting to keep her expression neutral. The element of surprise was all she had. She circled Cluck slowly, waiting for just the right moment. Then, when Cluck went to the right, Marion charged forwards, driving her broomstick into the chicken's side. Cluck squawked in surprise, jumping her broom in the process. As she ducked to pick it up, Marion held her own broomstick to her nursemaid's throat. "Not so fast," she said, a grin stretching across her face. Cluck cheered, reaching up and easily swatting the broom away. "Now that's more like it," she praised as she climbed back to her feet. "Maybe it will make a night out of you yet." Marion raised her broom in triumph as a rush of excitement flowed through her. She twirled around the barn, feeling almost giddy. And then I'll teach that no-good, thumb-sucking, phony King of England a lesson," she declared. Now, let's not get carried away," Cluck admonished. "It'll be a long time before you're ready to lay siege to a kingdom. Still, we'll start having regular lessons, beginning tomorrow, if that works for you. At the very least, I want you to be able to defend yourself should the need arise." Marion turned to face the chicken. "Thank you," she said, feeling the warmth of gratitude as her eyes fell on her attendant's face. "I'm so glad to have you back in my life, this time as a partner, not just as a nursemaid. Cluck smiled, placing a wing on Marion's arm. "I feel the same," she assured her. Then she clapped her wings. "Now, I think that's enough sword playing for today. You're going to be black and blue by tomorrow as it is. Besides, I believe we have some gold to deliver." Her eyes twinkled. "Yes," Marion exclaimed, excitement welling inside of her at the thought, mixed with a little fear. "Hopefully I can remember where I hid it. And then, once we have it, we could go straight to Nottingham." "How do you plan to distribute it?" Cluck asked curiously. Marion thought for a moment. "I don't want to leave it out in the open," she said, "and I want to make sure everyone gets the same amount. I think the best thing to do would be to slip quietly into each house while they're asleep and leave a few pieces of gold on every table. Then, when they wake up, it'll be there." She grinned, imagining the scene. "They're going to be so surprised." "It sounds like a grand idea," Cluck replied, "but it's still risky, and we need to be careful. We don't know if the sheriff has any guards stationed in town, or spies, or if we're spotted." "Right," Marion wrinkled her nose. "Being identified would be a problem." "We'll go disguised," she said after a pause. "I have Robin's cloak and hat, and you have your own. We'll stick to the shadows, keeping our hoods low over our faces the whole time. It'll be dark, too. I think we'll be all right as long as we're careful." "I hope so," Cluck said. She made a face, because if anyone does recognize us, well, a good deed will be over before they have truly begun.